to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. This is Major League Baseball for Monday, April 29th. We are 5 weeks into the season, entering into week 6. For this Monday, you can see on screen there what we've been talking about, that the A-grade sides kind of chug along and do really well, and that's why we talk about those A-grade thresholds. A little bit down last week, but overall still holding on to that 1.5% ROI, kind of been the way it's going to go is going to be up and down, and in the long term, we expect it to be slightly up. So far, first 5 recommended plays have done well. A grades have done well for the most part. B grades have done well. Me picking them out has done even better. It's really recommended the best bet, or whatever you want to call it. Continue to trickle along, make about 12 units last week, and for the season, double-digit ROI. I'm not sure it'll continue at that kind of clip. That's really impressive. But so far, so good with those first 5s. And as I mentioned before, I think there's a real reason why that's or a real possible reason why that's the case. And that could be modeling the first part of a baseball game is different than the back part. And it could be that the way I've built the model does a better job handling starting pitchers than bullpens, especially given the fact that we don't ever know who's going in a bullpen, who's available, that sort of thing. But we do with starting pitchers. And so the first 5 market has a little bit more juice in it, typically an extra nickel or so on average. But, that's been no problem for us so far with these first 5 because the model's doing a really good job analyzing the first part of the game. And then things getting a little bit hairier with the bullpens. But in general, again, the A-grade side still looking solid. Play of the day, slightly up last week, fighting back to positive for that play of the day. We got a long way to go. I have confidence we will get there. The extra credit picks over on Twitter, 5-2 last week and a 24% ROI. Probably won't be 24% by the end of the year, but again, building up some wiggle room because there will be some downtimes. That's the way it goes. We unfortunately can't win them all. And the parlay of the day, positive week last week, back up to break even after a little bit of struggle there either the week before or the week before, I can't remember. So pretty solid week 5. Pretty pleased here so far. And again, you can get all those first 5 plays over on Dub Club. That QR code or the link in the show description will get you a free trial, get you the information when you can't watch the show, gives you the picks hand delivered to you so you don't have to look through the thresholds and find them yourself. Here we will give you the information as what the A-grade thresholds are, the projected probabilities, everything you need in order to continue to research and figure out what plays should be made. But if you want me to connect all the dots for you, you can get that over on Dub Club. You can also get Discord chat access. A lot of reasons to be over there on Dub Club if you are not already there. And then, of course, some reminders before we get started. Pickswiththeprofessor.com/new gives you the information about the model, community rules. Weather is subject to change. Those updates, of course, coming on Dub Club. But we are about 20-ish hours from first pitch in any of these games. And so things could change, and I'll try to highlight where it matters and where it won't. We are projecting the average game. One game is unknown. Who knows what will happen in one game? That's why we always talk about when we say win probability 55% or any whatever percent, we expect to win some of those and lose some of those. But as long as we are well calibrated, that tells us the prices where we can bet things and show long-term profitability. That's what we've been doing here. If you've been with us for many years, you are well aware of the drill. If not, hang around until it clicks. It's kind of a weird concept, but the idea is the probability a team's going to win the game is what it is. We can't change that, but we can say, here's the prices where it's profitable and here's the prices where it's not. And that's going to be the difference between if you're winning or a losing better. But as always, take what you like and leave the rest. And last but not least, if you can like the show, we appreciate that. Helps others find us. We like it when you like it. No day games for us here, unfortunately, on Monday. Going to start off with Yankees and the Orioles at 6:35 p.m. Eastern. A little bit of a warmer night in Baltimore here, starting off mid-80s, closing in the upper 70s. Wind slightly across, slightly out. Going to play pretty neutral here. The weather is going to be actually slightly hitter-friendly in what's become a slightly pitcher-friendly ballpark. We are still in April, folks. This game is going to play a little bit more like a true Bay game. In Baltimore, where it's not really cold and not really, a low-scoring type environment. But, of course, it won't be quite like the summer where the ball can really fly there. Clark Schmidt and Grayson Rodriguez, both pitchers have made 5 starts. The ERAs are about a run apart, but as we've been talking about, right, ERA is not the most predictive measure. Based off what we have from last year, the underlying metric, et cetera, we still have Grayson Rodriguez as the much better pitcher in this one. I'm not sure it's by quite as much as the model thinks. We talked about it a lot last week, and I still think we're here, and I'll probably keep mentioning it here for the next several weeks because we're at that point where 4 outings, 5 outings, 6 outings, right? You can really overreact or underreact, and we got to try to figure out how to do that correctly. And so how you're trying to calibrate last year's data and what we expected him into the season, what we've seen so far this season, with that, it is not an exact science for each individual player. Overall, we can do it pretty well, but each individual player is going to be a little bit different. So we talk about starting pitchers. And that's why I think the model is doing well with the first fives, because it does a pretty good job of that, not overreacting when it shouldn't, not underreacting when it shouldn't. And so you might look at the ERAs and say that Schmidt's the better pitcher. And the underlying metrics for Schmidt are relatively decent, but even this year, the underlying metrics for Grayson Rodriguez are better. Last year was better. So we've still got him as the better pitcher, maybe not by quite as much as the model thinks. The model says it's over a standard deviation. That might be a little bit generous, but you know what? I'm going to come back and I'm going to say the difference in these offenses, model has the Yankees offense is better than the Orioles, and that might not be true either. There's a couple of question marks. You could make the argument that we are not reacting to how good Clark Schmidt has been in his first 5 outings, and that he's a little bit better than that, and the gap's a little bit smaller. But on the same breath, if you do that, you would need to look at these offenses and say there's a case maybe the Orioles offense is actually better than the Yankees offense. If we don't overreact, you kind of get more to where this screen is. So either way, I kind of think what I'm trying to say is I think if you take what we've seen this season and you say we need to be a little more focused on that, then I think you make the Orioles offense a little bit better than this. Yankees offense a little bit worse. You make Schmidt a little bit better. And I think you land at the same spot. Whereas what the model's doing is saying, I know I've got this data. I'm using it, but I'm not going to overreact just yet. But either way, I think you still kind of land at the same spot. The Orioles are home. They're the better team. Sideline says they win 59% of the time, should be priced at minus 145. The A grade threshold is minus 130 for the Orioles. And that's the point where if you can find that minus 130, fire away on Baltimore to game. We're expecting about 9 runs in, starting to see some projected totals a little bit higher as we start to think about heading into May. That's in the Marlins, 6:40 p.m. Eastern. Jake Irvin and Trevor Rogers. Irvin's been decent this year. The underlying metrics are really encouraging. So a guy that, we didn't expect really anything of coming into the season, but when you look under the hood, not bad. Not bad at all. Trevor Rogers, very mixed thoughts coming into the season. He's had some times where he looked better than others, worse than others, injured, healthy, right? He's been kind of all over the map here, which is tough to say for as young as he is. But so far, 4.10 ERA, but the, FIP under 3, xFIP pretty solid. I mean, looking more like the good version of Trevor Rogers than not. But both of these pitchers have, are on the up. I don't think either one of them is a guy who you should be scared of at this point. A guy who's trending both are trending the right direction. But Rogers started off at a better spot because we've seen more positives from him over the last couple of years, whereas Jake Irvin's been much more mediocre. So both trending the right direction. Trevor Rogers started off better, and so we still think he's the better pitcher offensively. Woof, number 27 and number 28 at this point. This is brutal. Bullpens, both meh. Marlins bullpen has really struggled this year, even though we thought a little bit more of them coming into the season. Nats bullpen just kind of been meh. I mean, some brutal offenses in this one. I think it's the bottom line, which is why we're only projecting 8.4 in a game with questionable relievers. We got the Marlins here as 60% favorites. Model says the price should be minus 152. Current price I'm seeing is minus 150. So right now I'd be looking at the Marlins, but I'm not running to play Miami full game minus 150. Don't trust that bullpen. You saw them blow a 7-run lead on Sunday. I'm not saying that means you should bet the Nats. I'm just saying, I know Rogers is a better pitcher. They should be favored, but I mean, my goodness, that you just have to be a little bit nervous anytime you're playing back in the Marlins here. This doesn't have Sunday's data in it, so I'm curious to see. I don't think one game's going to change it too much, but like after that outing from that Marlins bullpen, like you wonder if that bullpen grade's going to get like an extra point or two worse coming into Monday. We'll see what the update shows us when we get to that point. Maybe you're looking at the first 5 market or a total market. We'll see if we'll have an official pick on Dub Club, but right now, the Nats aren't priced high enough to take because they still have a starting pitcher disadvantage. But the Marlins price is not good enough to jump at. So right now, a game I'm not really jumping into the full game market on. Cardinals and the Tigers, upper 60s, really for the totality of this game. Going to be blowing across. Should play pretty normal there in that park. Steven Matz, Kenta Maeda, both of these guys have ERAs in the 5. In the 5s, Maeda, a guy I just do not trust. Talked about this previously. His FIP is actually not terrible at 463, but he gets that 107 grade based off of a 459 projection. So a 463 FIP is the best thing you can say about him, and that's actually slightly worse than his projection. So far this season, his FIP is much higher. than his xFIP is. His ERA is much higher. And so you can make the case that he's actually worse than that 107. I do not trust him at all. Matt's, on the other hand, 5.55 ERA, but the underlying metrics better than that. Not like he's amazing, but I think he's a respectable, decent pitcher. I've talked about him previously. He's a guy that I thought should be in the rotation for a while now. He ended up being out of the rotation. I was looking at, this last year or 2 years, I can't remember anything. He's good enough to be in the rotation. And sure enough, I think that's the case. He's going to have some good starts. He's going to have some weaker starts. He's not going to win a Cy Young, but he's good enough to be a starting pitcher. And that's what that grade of 100 indicates, just average starting pitcher, which I think is better than what you have from Maeda. Cardinals bats are better. Cardinals bullpen, number 4 in baseball, according to Sideline. The Cardinals are on the road, but they win still 54% of the time. Sideline says that the price should be minus 118. I'm saying minus 110. A-grade threshold's minus 105. So you're about a nickel away. As always, people shop around. If you can find that minus 105, I'd have no problem backing the Cardinals. And this is a game where you could look at a first 5, and it's all about the price, and we'll see where it is. And the Tigers bullpen isn't terrible whatsoever, but the Cardinals bullpen is good enough that I don't think I'm scared off on the full game necessarily in this one. So really, I'm kind of looking at that full game. If we can get to that minus 105 A-grade threshold, I think it's worth firing away. But again, we'll see what all the other markets look like in the morning. But if you can find that minus 105 at any of your books, make sure you have multiple books to shop around at. 3 or 4, you don't need 10. If you have 10, that's fine. You don't need 10 though, but you do need 3 or 4. If you can save 5 or 10 cents on every single game, you're going to win more when you win. You're going to lose less when you lose. And that's going to help out keep your bankroll higher. If you don't have an account there yet, BetUS is one of the places you should be signing up at. They have good prices all around and a 125% bonus on your first ever 3 deposits. Link in the show description.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Royals and the Blue Jays. Blue Jays got it done for us here with A-grade play on Sunday. Was good for us there against I don't even remember who the Dodgers, because the Dodgers were they'll host the Royals here. Mid-40s should close the roof. Jonathan Bolin, I don't know, is who is projected to start for the Royals against Yariel Rodriguez. Bolin pitched a little bit in the majors last year, pitched in the minors this year, gets a 110 grade. We do have enough data on him that I feel confident in saying he's not going to be terrible, but I don't think he's what we expect to be a good overall pitcher. Anything can happen in one game. But we still like Yariel Rodriguez, a guy I've been high on in all 3 of his starts so far this season from the very beginning. 3.86 ERA, FIP tiny bit higher, xFIP lower. Pretty solid for a rookie. A lot of times rookies come up and they're in this 110 range, and that's nothing bad. It's just saying, these kids are 24, right? And they're going up against these veterans, these guys who've really perfected their craft. And, it's hard to be around average even as a rookie. So Yariel Rodriguez is a guy I'm really high on for the Blue Jays here. Offensively, the Royals offense, I've been saying I kind of think they're just taking a little bit of a step back. Some of that hot start was a little bit of a mirage. They're still doing okay. They're still winning some games here. 17-12, you have to be pleased with that start, but I think you're starting to see a little bit of that offense coming down a little bit after that really incredible start. So the Blue Jays have some big edges here, but the Royals bullpen is the story at this point, playing or pitching so well up at the top 10 after last year having one of the worst bullpens in baseball. And that's the thing, of course, with bullpens. They can be revamped quickly, and the model will take notice quickly. And all of a sudden we have here that the Royals one of the stronger bullpens after there being such a weakness last year. And that's been one of the keys to them competing. The starting pitching's held up. The offense hasn't been – I don't think this is an offense that's going to be, a top 10 offense in baseball, but good enough, bullpen solid. And all of a sudden you have a respectable team in a wide open AL Central. Can't complain there. They should have a tough time, though, against the Blue Jays. Model says the Jays win this about 60% of the time. This game right now is priced really well. Would have no lean whatsoever with regard to the side, as the prices that we're seeing are almost like they were based off of this model. Total projection 8.5. Again, we're probably going to have to be in the first trade market to be invested in this game unless there's some massive line movement overnight. Cubs and the Mets around 60 degrees to start, maybe falling into the upper 50s by the end of it. Wind will be blowing out at about 10 miles an hour, so we've got a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. Not an overly warm night by any stretch of the imagination, but the wind blowing out will kind of offset the coolness, and this will play like an average game at Citi Field. Cold, wind out, really canceling, and just go back to this is still a pitcher-friendly park on average, and that's what we're going to see. Not going to be a Citi Field game that we're expecting, nobody to be able to score, but not a hot summer game either. So just a typical pitcher-friendly park for this one. Jameson Taillon and Luis Severino are the two projected pitchers. No line at this time. I believe that's because the Cubs were just playing, so there's no line out. I don't think there's any question on the starting pitchers, but maybe there is, and I missed that. Assuming it is these two guys, both of them have pitched much better than their underlying metrics, but both of them you have to be really pleased with. Taillon, of course, only 2 starts, but the underlying metrics are actually better than his projection. The ERA, of course, fantastic. I'm not sure that's representative or sustainable, but he's looked really good so far. And Severino as well, a guy I was high on coming into the season. Probably not quite as good as that 2.67 ERA, but I mean, no complaints whatsoever from either one of these pitchers. The Mets bullpen just continues to look dominant. And again, part of the reason for their success, the offense doing just enough and the bullpen looking really good. And all of a sudden the Mets, after that crazy, terrible start, 14-13, is a pretty good place to be wrapping up April after what they looked like at the start of the season. Sideline says the Mets win this 60% of the time, and they should be priced at -150. You can see the A-grade thresholds there on screen of the game. We're projecting for 8 runs. I'd love to get under 9 in this game, but I don't think we're going to see that by any stretch of the imagination. But, a boy can dream about something like that there, right? Which will take us to the other Chicago team, the White Sox hosting the Twins. White Sox doubling their win total, sweeping the Rays, and I wondered it aloud last week, like, are the Rays secretly bad, or how concerned which should we be? And folks, we don't want to overreact to a few games, and I tell this story a lot, so if you've been with you for any time, you know this, but there was one of the seasons back, Phillies won the World Series, the Astros lost 100 games, and the Astros went into Philadelphia, and I'm pretty sure they swept a 4-game series. That Astros team was terrible. That Phillies team was great, and the Astros swept them. We see this sort of weird thing happen every year. The Astros made the ALCS last year. At the end of the season, lost 5 out of 6 to the Royals, who were terrible, right? So, we don't want to overreact to a few games. That said, we were already concerned about the Rays. We were really down on the White Sox. How do you synthesize that? I think the way to do it for the White Sox, and we'll get to the Rays next, but I think for the White Sox, I think the way we synthesize doubling your win total is they weren't as bad as they looked earlier. And you can see that on screen now. Their offensive grade's up to a 73, which is still terrible, but it was in the mid-60s last week. And I think it's kind of that recalibration of, okay, this offense is bad. It's one of the worst in baseball. It's the second worst. I'm not sure it's even close, because I think that the next 2 worst, Nats and the Marlins, both are better than this offense. I think they are clearly the second worst offense in baseball, but the gap between really good and less good in baseball in professional sports usually isn't that big. It's not like college football where number 1 beats number 100. Alabama beats Vanderbilt by 50 points, right? It's not that big. This is why I think these still have professional athletes. They're still not terrible. They've still got some okay starting pitching. Fetty's not terrible. He looked okay Sunday. Crochet here again. A guy I'm high on. I'm not worried about that ERA. 6.37, but a 4.10 FIP and an xFIP under 3. He'll be fine. The defense behind him is a concern, and so maybe he'll give up some runs. Maybe they don't help him out, right? And anything can happen in one night. But I still think he's a pretty respectable, solid pitcher. So I think this White Sox team isn't as bad as it looked before. They aren't as good as sweeping the Rays, of course. But I think we saw this week, this team can win some ball games. They're going to lose over 100 almost assuredly. They're probably going to lose way more than 100. But they aren't an auto fade. And thankfully for us, we faded them once, backed them once, and turned out to be a plus money venture for us in the weekend there, and passed on the third game. So take that into account as we go through here. We've got a pretty decent hand on the White Sox. If we're backing them, I probably want to do it first 5. They won't just won 3 in a row, but the first 5, that bullpen is scary, terrifyingly bad. They have one good pitcher in there, and I know they held the Rays down a little bit, but I just am not a believer at all in this bullpen. So if we're backing them, like I said, I want to do it first 5. I'm fading him. I want to do it full game. I want that bullpen involved. Joe Ryan, on the other hand, for the Twins, of course, a guy we've backed a lot. Underlying metrics are really good, even better than his 3.45 ERA. Nothing but good things to say. He should have success against this White Sox offense that is not that good. That said, I never trust the Twins to score runs. There's a reason this projected total is 8.1. I'd love to get an under 9 here too. I don't think it's going to happen. But with regards to side models, the Twins win this 61% of the time, should be priced at minus 153. Right now it is priced really well. So I'll have to see if the first side market offers us anything. Maybe a first 5 under. I'd really like to back Joe Ryan and Garrett Crochet. Maybe a first 5. If we're taking the White Sox, a little run line action there, maybe we get a 1-1, 0-0 first 5. Ways we're looking all about the price, all those thresholds and all that information again for the first 5, for the run lines, for the reverse run lines, everything you need over on Dub Club. Again, if you're not with us, that link in the show description will get you started off with a free trial. Rays and the Brewers. Now, what do we do with the Rays? I think we had concerns before. I don't think those concerns have changed. I talked about it last week. The bullpen for the Rays hasn't been good this year. It wasn't good last year, and that's the first time that's happened. Ever since before that, when this Rays team's been good, their bullpen has been a strength. They've been able to throw out those bullpen games reliably. They've had a ton of good arms. They did it last year. It doesn't look good this year. The difference is last year that offense was, a top 10 at times at the start of the season, maybe a top 5 offense. So far, not as good. They're really right-handed heavy. So they're number 11 overall, but they really need to face lefties, I feel like, because they're so right-handed heavy, they become below league average against righties. They're a team that's really hard to back right now. If the market overcorrects, I have no problem backing them, but it's hard to get overly excited about backing them in this game. I think Pepio's the better pitcher here. The underlying metrics for Bryce Wilson are a concern. FIP of 521. It's not that many innings, but he's been just very mediocre over his career. I think the Rays have the edge at starting pitching, but the problem is I'm just really concerned about this offense. The Brewers offense can completely disappear. As we've seen it, they all of a sudden giving up a ton of runs here this week into the Yankees. That bullpen that was looking so strong is starting to take a big hit. There's just question marks all over for this one. Right now, the model would lean towards the Brewers. The A-grade threshold minus 101 for them. We're not anywhere near there right now, but the model will be looking that direction. It's really a game that I think, there's 12 games here on Monday. You don't have to bet them all. There might be a little bit of a Brewers edge. Again, we'll see the first time markets, the total markets, all that stuff is just not really out yet when I'm recording this run line markets, et cetera. So maybe there's an edge somewhere. It's a game that just looking at it from what are these teams right now, who are they, is really tough to say. And so one that I don't think we should be afraid to pass on, because the Brewers should have hung around a little better Saturday, Sunday against the Yankees and shouldn't have given up 30 runs or whatever in 2 days. The Rays really should have won one, if not 2, of those games against the White Sox. So you have to be a little bit concerned. We've been concerned about the Brewers offense. So there's just a lot of question marks in this game. So we'll see if there's a mathematical edge and a good play, but it's definitely one that I'm not going to feel overly confident running to back no matter what, because I just don't know what to make of either one of these teams. And unfortunately, playing each other, I'm not sure we're going to find out much coming out of this series. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but we'll find out. That wraps up with the early games. Now to the late set of games. That game was 7:40. Now we're jumping to 9:40. There's a whole 2 hours where no games are starting. Phillies and the Angels. Phillies coming off of a sweep at the Padres, traveling just a little bit north to play in Anaheim, low 60s for this one. Want to be blowing out. Should play a little bit pitcher friendly. Want to be blowing out, but it kind of normally does slightly blow out there on average. It's kind of cooked into the park factor. Still a slightly chilly night. We'll have 100-degree days, of course, in Anaheim later on. And so the ball relative to how it can fly then won't necessarily fly. Christopher Sanchez and Griffin Canning. Sanchez has been a guy we've long been a fan of, long backed. 2.96 ERA in his 5 starts. Advanced metrics look great. FIP at 3. XFIP at 3. FIP at 221. I mean, a guy I love. I think he's a really good pitcher here. Angels, though, really right-handed heavy. And so that's an interesting note here, is that you've got a pitcher I definitely trust with the Phillies facing an Angels lineup that they still lost here to the Twins on Sunday, but they finally started scoring a little bit of runs facing a lefty here. That's what they want. So that's kind of an interesting note. Griffin Canning for the Angels, 7.50 ERA and advanced metrics, not that bad, but I don't trust him at all. This Phillies offense maybe is starting to put it together. The bullpen looks solid. We still have some questions on that Phillies offense, but so far, you look at this last weekend, at least they got it done in a fairly pitcher-friendly ballpark. So it's tough to say that you like the Angels here. Models says they only win 45% of the time. Here's the issue: is that the Phillies might be a little bit overpriced. The way we have to look at this, and so I'm going to come at it two ways here. Number one is anytime you see here and it says that the Philly should be minus 121 and you're seeing the current price of like minus 140, it's like 20 cents off from where it should be, 30 cents off or more maybe from where you'd want it to be. Sometimes it just means just pass. The model doesn't, you don't have to play the shot, you just have to pass. And so maybe it's not to say the Phillies don't win. I love Christopher Sanchez. It's just saying, hey, the Angels are right-handed heavy. Maybe this isn't the best spot. The Phillies using up all their good relievers here this weekend. Maybe their bullpen isn't in the best shape right now. Maybe we just don't play them. The other way to look at this with the Angels is right now you'd have a little bit of an edge. You're nowhere near the A-grade threshold of plus 139. Maybe the Angels' first five is a way to look because I don't trust their set of relievers whatsoever either. Or maybe it's just a pass. Maybe you can look at it and you say, yeah, the Angels are, might have a little bit of value, but I just don't trust that Griffin Canning can get it done for me. And you just say that, we don't have to bet on every game. Some of you will hear that and you will say, and we fall prey sometimes to hindsight thinking. We really want to combat this because here's the thing. There's like no weather. So this game, assuming nothing weird happens, God forbid, right? This game will happen. Somebody will win. That doesn't mean that either side was a smart pick. And that might be tough for some of you to swallow. But it's the same concept of if you were to go to Vegas and go to the roulette wheel, that red or black or green is going to happen. That doesn't mean that you should put a lot of your money on one of them because something will happen. And it's not like the thing happens and it's black and you're like, I should have done black. That was the smart pick. No, the odds did not match out with the payout. The probability didn't match out with the payout. And that's what we're saying here is that there's a probability involved. The Phillies are more likely to win than not, but the way they're priced on the road, relievers just all went. Angels offense not looking great, but again, facing a lefty's good for them. Maybe they're priced a little bit too high and they might win, but that doesn't mean it was a good bet at the current price. And the same thing with the Angels. Maybe they do win, but maybe it's smart to just back away because Griffin Canning. So we'll see what the first time market looks like there. I don't trust the Rose. I don't really trust Griffin Canning. So I'm not in love with anything on this right now. We are projecting about 9 runs on this one. My hunch is the total is going to be about 9. So we'll see. Maybe there's an angle on this one, but right now, a game I'm not loving anything one way or the other. Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. James Paxton and Tommy Henry, Diamondbacks, closing out the weekend series at Seattle with a win. Tommy Henry will get the ball for them and looks better than his ERA for sure. The underlying metrics are fairly solid. Here's the catch with him is he wasn't very good in last year. And so it's kind of really which eye do you close? He's given up some runs this year. Even looking under the hood last year wasn't good. But in 24 innings this year, a 380 xFIP, so like maybe you kind of can see a little bit of her going in the right direction. The counter to that is facing the Dodgers offense is always terrifying. The benefit for him being a lefty, the Dodgers are very left-handed heavy. So that's something to think of. The Dodgers also have a very long trip back from Toronto. Now it's a later game. They got on the flight, etc. But like that doesn't mean nothing here on the first day. Like that's kind of still a long trip from Toronto to Phoenix. So that's something to keep in mind with the Dodgers. James Paxton, look, folks, gets a 105 grade because that 261 ERA, when you look at the underlying metrics, is all smoke and mirrors. If he continues to pitch like this, his ERA will be up in the 4s in no time. Now, that doesn't mean his ERA won't stay down because he might pitch better. But so far, he has not been good. He's been fairly lucky. We'll see if that continues. But the Diamondbacks offense is a little bit more right-handed heavy than left. So they get a little bit of a boost facing the lefty. And this Diamondbacks offense can put up a ton of runs. So they can disappear, but they can also put up 15 runs in a game or whatever. So a lot of interesting angles on this one with regards to the pitchers and who they're facing. The gap between these offenses is a little bit smaller being a lefty-lefty. And I've got Pax as a better pitcher, But I mean, you can really make a case that these two pitchers are even. So there's, the Dodgers should be favored here. I'm not sure by much. At this point, I'm thinking this is Diamondbacks or pass, especially in the spot with the travel. I could not back the Dodgers at a price like minus 145 that I'm seeing right now. And in fact, the current price that I'm seeing on the Diamondbacks is really close to that A grade threshold of plus 133. So keep an eye out, shop around. If we can get to that A grade for the Diamondbacks, or maybe we don't get to there for the full game, but we like the first five. Again, the A grade threshold for the first five. Money line, run line, all of that's on Dub Club. We'll have official picks on the first five, which again has been tearing it up over on Dub Club in the morning. If you're not with us, I don't know why you're not with us. Sign up with the link in the show description. Reds and the Padres. Pretty standard night in San Diego. A little chilly, slight breeze blowing out. Nothing really to write home about. Nick Lodolo and Matt Waldron. And folks, the Reds, they did great on Saturday. And their offense did fairly well. But, I mean, to me, watching it was the strength of Hunter Green. And that's what I said with the Reds. The biggest thing on the Reds is their starting pitchers. That's what's going to carry them. Their bullpen, I'm not sold on. Their offense, I'm not sold on. Their offense isn't terrible. But it's going to be the biggest thing is they've got a bunch of promising starting pitchers. Can they keep it together? Montas had a really great couple starts, then started to fade a little bit. But Hunter Green looked fantastic there. He's obviously a guy with upside. Nick Lodolo might be the best of the bunch. 2.12 ERA in his 3 starts, 2.04 FIP. XFIP a little bit higher, but I mean, a very good starting pitcher. And it's the starting pitchers that are going to keep the Reds hanging in there because that is by far the strength of this team. And that's where they're going to have an edge against the Padres. Matt Waldron is not bad. 3.96 ERA. Advanced metrics say it should be a little bit higher, but make no bones about it. This is a big edge for the Reds with regards to starting pitcher. Offensively, I think the Padres offense is a little bit better. I'm not really sold on the Padres offense. They're number 10 according to Sideline, but folks, the gap between number 7 and number 20, it's something like that, is really small. And just 1 week could shuffle that around because there's a bunch of offenses that are just kind of okay. And the Padres might be towards the top of that right now, but I'm not convinced they're going to stay there. They're just okay. I think they're better than the Reds offense, but not by much. It's not by the same amount that Nick Lodolo is better. The issue for him, and the issue for the Reds, is he's only going to pitch 6-ish innings. And that's where the first 5 market, if I'm playing the Reds, I'm playing them on the first 5 because of that. Right now, the game overall is priced pretty well. I'm eyeing, no first 5 lines are really out yet, except for some random book that nobody has access to right now. They'll be out by the time, they're coming out as I'm recording this probably. The models really dislike the Reds. Right now, the full game model says it's priced really well, which makes me think maybe there's a little bit of Reds edge. Maybe let's look Reds first 5 because, again, I don't trust the Reds bullpen. I don't want to trust the Padres bullpen, but I just don't want to be involved in the game after that. I love Nick Lodolo. Maybe he's the guy to back if the price is right. If the market's looking at this and you see Reds, minus 120 for the first 5 or something like that, what are you going to do, right? They should be favored for the first 5, but maybe not by quite that much, right? So if I'm looking at this, Reds first 5 might be a way to look as long as the price is reasonable. But the model says it's a pretty coin toss game. And given how much we've faded the Reds so far this season, and it's worked pretty 50-50-ish on the whole, and when it's failed, it's been because the starting pitcher's done really well, i.e. Hunter Green on Saturday, I'm not running to back the Padres. And if I can find a decent enough price, I think the Reds might be a decent way to look here on Monday. Braves and Mariners, folks, it's going to be a chilly night here in Seattle. It wouldn't be blowing out, which will help a little bit, but we're talking mid-40s in a park that, again, has a cabana that can prevent rain, but it does not enclose the stadium. So it will be cold there. The ball will not fly. Max Fried and Bryce Miller. Fried, again, I said it kind of early on. I was a little bit concerned after that second start, but that first start, you can really put an asterisk on. Strike 3 was right on the middle. Second start was terrible. After that, he's starting to look really good. ERA still a little bit high from that. But the FIP and the XFIP are both down below 4 now, and he's starting to look like the pitcher we thought he'd be. Given enough time, the ERA will continue to come back down. It can balloon out a little bit high with those first 2 starts, but I'm not concerned. I think he's one of the best pitchers in baseball. Sideline has him at number 6. Bryce Miller, on the other hand, I think it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors here. It's been 5 good starts, 2.22 ERA, but a lot of that I think is the park. FIP and the XFIP are a little bit higher. I think he's solid. I think he's respectable. I think playing in a pitcher-friendly ballpark, I think he's going to have some good numbers. But But I've got this as a big edge for the Braves as starting pitcher. It's a big edge for the Braves on offense. It's a big edge in the bullpen. The Mariners bullpen was a strength for so long. Obviously, they lost a couple guys. Some of the guys they put in I think, are kind of mediocre. A guy like Matt Brash now having another setback for him is one of their top arms in the bullpen, right? So this Mariners team isn't bad, but I mean, I look at them up and down the lineup here. Lineup, starting pitcher, relievers, they're just average. This Braves team looks really good. The Braves should be big favorites in this. Model says they win 62% of the time. Right now, we are approaching that A-grade threshold price for the Braves. So I'd be Braves or pass is the way I'm looking on this one based off the current price unless something changes. The other thing is a total at 7.1. If you're seeing a 7.5, as long as it's not juiced too high, you got to love the under in this case because I just don't see the Mariners offense putting up many runs against Max Fried and these Braves relievers. So Braves and under are kind of a couple different ways to look at this. Again, all based off the price. You can see the full game projections there. And again, the first 5 stuff over on Dub Club. And then wrapping us up, Pirates and the A's, upper 50s when we blowing across. Pitcher-friendly ballpark, pitcher-friendly night. Runs are going to be tough to come by based off the park and the weather. What will offset that is the fact that the model is not very high on Joe Boyle. He's not as bad as that 7.06 ERA, but make no bones about it, he's not good. And the model still hasn't come around for Bailey Falter. 3.33 ERA, but 4.53 FIP, 4.52 xFIP. The fact that those are 100th apart means nothing. That's just kind of random. That's not like an indicator of anything. But the model still thinks he's okay and not, as good as that ERA has been. Now, that said, he should have decent results here against this below-average A's offense. Today's offense that I keep talking about looks worse and worse by the day as they struggle to score. Now, they did score a few runs here on Sunday, but overall, this A's offense has been more of a disappointment. And so you expect Bailey Falter to have some success there, but maybe not as much as if he was as good as that ERA. The Pirates offense, I still don't know what to make of them. They should have success against a guy like Joe Boyle, but in that park, anybody can be shut out. So there's definitely some questions as to how that'll play out. Sideline says the Pirates are favored, should be favored, and right now they would be in the threshold for the A grade, which is minus 130. So long as you're minus 130 or better, we fire away on the Pirates. As good as that A's bullpen has been so far this year, I still think the Pirates bullpen is a little bit better. As much as I'm not high on Bailey Falter, I still think he's the better starting pitcher. And as much as I'm concerned about the Pirates offense, the A's offense has looked just as concerning. And so it's hard not to like the Pirates here. Again, model says they win about 60% of the time, and the price should be much higher than the current number that I'm seeing. So it's Pirates or pass there. Again, as long as you get minus 130 or better. That's what I've got here for you today. Remember, sign up on Dub Club today. First 5 information, full set of picks, all the updates. Try to give you as much information as possible. Really appreciate your support over there. You are helping provide for my family as I do this, again, first thing when I wake up all day and the last thing I do before I go to bed. And so this consumes me, and so it allows me to help provide for my family while I do all this work for y'all. So I really appreciate all the support over there. And in turn, I try to give you everything possible. I'm open to suggestions to give y'all more, everything I can possibly give and provide help for you. All the chatting on Discord, all the advice on Discord, please hit me up. I want to make sure it's worth your time and money over there because I really appreciate y'all helping me out. And I want to help y'all out. So as much as possible, if I can, I want to, if you're with us on Dub Club. Thanks for your support. Thanks for watching. Consider Dub Club if you haven't yet. If not, though, still appreciate you supporting us by watching and hitting that like button, which does help us out. Otherwise, as always, best of luck here on your Monday. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.